Defining the Thargoids remains a challenge, for nearly every new piece of information they reveal only deepens the mystery surrounding them. They are often described as the first undeniably alien intelligence encountered by humanity, though it is difficult to say precisely when the earliest contact occurred. Some ancient records, fragmented by time, speak of strange crafts appearing in remote systems well before anyone fully acknowledged the existence of an extraterrestrial civilization. Their name, spoken in hushed tones for centuries, has grown synonymous with the unknown.
It's Friday, the 20th of October, 3111. This is Professor Penelope Carver. I'm making this log for our own records and keeping it separate from the official logs we're sending to our employer. Why? Well, I'm still concerned about working for Azimuth Biochemicals, to be honest. Obviously, we take on all sorts of contracts for a living, and this isn't our first top-secret commercial project. But the rumours about this corporation... Anyway, my people can handle anything, I'm sure. Azimuth are certainly paying well for our skills. I'll give them that. And those debts of mine aren't going away by themselves. The Coalsack Nebula has turned out to have a lot more scientific value than I expected. We established a site on this planet on the 13th after we detected some very odd signals, and the whole team is excited about what we found. That's another reason I'm logging this. If this turns out to be a big discovery, I want our names attached. The things growing here are like nothing on record. Definitely organic life, but with crystalline or metallic elements and chemistry that even O'Keefe can't make sense of. They're giving off signal bursts on all sorts of frequencies. So are they living organisms or machines of some kind? Murphy and Sheng both think they're alien in origin, as in constructed by non-humans. But Kamalo found that so hilarious we had to turn off his comms. Our transport ship is long gone by now, but Taylor's using the beacon to transmit our findings back to the company in the Chukchan system. She said the built-in encryption software is top of the line, which makes me think the stories about Azimuth and its rivals might be true. They obviously want to keep whatever we find all to them. Oh. Something's going on. I can hear everyone shouting. Did the scouting party find something?
In 3125, there were confirmed military encounters that marked the start of widespread public awareness of their presence, though many believe they had been active in human-occupied space far earlier. Accounts from those who have come face-to-face with the Thargoids describe creatures unlike any other sentient life humanity has encountered.
This is Professor Carver, 27th of October, 3111. Hopefully this log will record. Half of our equipment isn't working properly right now. Everything's changed since we found the crashed ship. For one thing, it's alien. Definitely non-human technology. I should sound more excited, I know. Every scientist's dream, isn't it? But something about this just feels wrong. I know the others feel the same. Even Kamalo isn't smiling anymore. We're still mostly in the dark about the object we retrieved from inside the wreckage. Is it the pilot, or the cargo, or maybe some organic component of the ship itself? It seems totally inert, but we've had electromagnetic interference all over the base since we brought it back. And that can't be a coincidence. Storing it has caused problems. Shane lashed something together using the strongest bulkheads they could find, but apparently it's still breaking that down. The equipment failures meant O'Keefe couldn't fully analyse its chemical structure, making him so angry that he actually attacked Kamalo for telling him to calm down. I've never had to break up my people like that. We've worked together for years. It's Murphy I'm most worried about, though. He can't tear himself away from those growths on the surface. The stones, he calls them. Like the Neolithic standing stones on Earth. We keep finding him out there in his suit, standing under the jet black sky, staring at them. He won't tell us why. We've been sending back reports, but Taylor just relayed a message that made my blood run cold. Azimuth has ordered us to cease all transmissions and await the arrival of their megaship, the Adamastor, which will transport us and our samples to a secure facility. And now I'm wondering why I got involved with a corporation that's rumoured to have its own private army. Have I put everyone at risk by taking this job?
Observers use terms such as insectoid or arthropod to approximate their appearance, but no definitive study of a living specimen has ever been completed in a controlled environment. Some physical remains were recovered in 3151 during the aftermath of a large-scale engagement, offering only partial insights into the way they adapt to foreign atmospheres. Their physiology seems suited for conditions few human scientists anticipated, indicating an evolutionary path that diverged from ours in profound ways. Their technological capabilities surpass conventional human engineering at nearly every turn. Their vessels, often referred to as interceptors or scouts, exhibit remarkable resilience and a capacity for self-repair. In 3301, a series of unknown artifacts began to surface in remote systems, giving rise to theories that these devices were part of a broader surveillance network. Reports from recent combat missions detail how Thargoid ships communicate in rapid bursts of energy, as though operating through a shared sensory or psionic channel. The peculiar energy signatures, the silent grace of their maneuvers, and the living nature of their hulls paint a portrait of advanced science that continues to elude human specialists. Their motivations, even after centuries of rumor and confrontation, remain difficult to pin down. Early logs mention unexplained hyperdictions in 3302, when pilots were suddenly yanked from faster-than-light travel, often left disoriented as these alien craft lingered in unsettling silence. Some view these intercepts as an indication of aggression or territorialism, while others argue that such behavior might be a form of reconnaissance. Whichever interpretation one chooses, there can be no doubt that their activities have profound implications for every inhabited system, throwing humanity's collective security into question. In every reported instance of direct conflict, the Thargoids have demonstrated overwhelming force and tactical sophistication. During the renewed wave of sightings in 3303, entire starports found themselves on high alert, and hastily assembled task forces were frequently outmatched. There have also been sporadic accounts of curious, non-aggressive behavior, suggesting that outright hostility may not always be their primary goal. Yet these fleeting moments of calm do not diminish the countless engagements in which lives were lost and infrastructure destroyed. From the wreckage of those battles come the rare clues about what they are and why they persist in emerging from the depths of space. Odd markings on abandoned Thargoid technology, whisperings of older civilizations that may have once clashed with them, and relics of uncertain origin all hint at a species whose history stretches far beyond recorded human memory. They stand as a testament to the vastness of the galaxy, an advanced, inscrutable force whose intentions remain elusive. Efforts to comprehend their behavior and unveil their past continue, but the Thargoids remain a powerful reminder that the gulf between human understanding and what lies beyond is far greater than once believed. The presence of the Thargoids has reshaped the balance of power and priorities across inhabited space, injecting a renewed sense of caution and urgency into every facet of human endeavor. When the first widely publicized sightings were confirmed in 3125, authorities scrambled to understand the intentions of this newly acknowledged threat. Those encounters marked the beginning of a profound shift in political alliances, commercial pursuits, and the nature of armed conflict, as the very prospect of an advanced alien force triggered an interstellar wave of preparation and adaptation. Throughout the centuries, the mere possibility of Thargoid aggression has compelled even the most stubbornly independent powers to cooperate. In 3301, representatives from otherwise rival superpowers initiated dialogue on how to handle the growing evidence of alien incursions. Although distrust ran deep, the awareness that an external presence could destabilize entire systems forced leaders to set aside rivalries, at least in part, and pool resources. Some credit these tense negotiations with reducing the risk of all-out conflict among the major powers, as more pressing concerns overshadowed expansionist ambitions. For traders and industrialists, the ramifications proved equally profound. Beginning in 3302, abrupt disruptions to faster-than-light travel, commonly referred to as hyperdictions, caused panic among merchant fleets reliant on safe, established routes. Insurance premiums skyrocketed in high-risk sectors, fueling a new wave of investment in security measures and remote monitoring. Exports of refined metals and other core commodities dipped, as ship captains refused contracts that required passing too close to suspected Thargoid territory. Regions thought to be well defended suddenly found themselves isolated when shipping companies rerouted their convoys or imposed steep hazard surcharges. These developments rippled through the economy on a grand scale. In 33-3, a series of raids attributed to Thargoid forces crippled major starports in distant frontier zones. Resource allocation quickly shifted, with priority given to stations deemed critical to defense or vital to humanitarian efforts. The scramble to research new technologies capable of countering alien vessels led to breakthroughs, but it also deepened existing rifts between those who advocated cautious diplomatic exploration and those who believed only overwhelming firepower could ensure survival. Every instance of hostilities has underlined the delicate balance that governs human affairs. In the wake of Thargoid incursions, heightened military expenditures swelled private and public fleets alike, supplying countless jobs in shipbuilding and weapons manufacturing. Yet these same expansions in firepower brought old tensions back to life, sparking debates over who should benefit from such formidable assets once the alien threat receded. Diplomats continually warn that the greatest danger lies not only in the Thargoids themselves, but also in how humanity's response might sow discord among its own factions. From 3125 to the present day, the Thargoids have become a catalyst for cooperation, conflict, and commerce alike, their impact woven into the very structure of human civilization. Alien physiology, as far as we know, has long been a subject of fascination and frustration for those studying the Thargoids. Many of the early records, dating back as far as 3125, describe finding fragments of unidentified organic matter at the sites of major engagements. These scraps offered only a fragmented glimpse into a biology seemingly built to withstand extreme conditions. In 3152, an expedition brought back more substantial remains, enabling scientists to isolate unusual cellular structures that appear to regenerate damage at a rate unheard of in known terrestrial life. The samples also revealed evidence of bioluminescence along certain membranes, suggesting that communication among Thargoid organisms might include visual signals imperceptible to the human eye. Subsequent investigations focused on the physiology of their vessels, which appear to function as biomechanical hybrids. Reports from 3301 document how these ships seem to possess organic components woven seamlessly into metallic frameworks. Samples collected from the outer plating indicated an ability to adapt or heal following certain types of damage. While attempts to replicate that self-repair process in laboratory conditions proved unsuccessful, the data strongly imply that Thargoid technology and biological design cannot be viewed as separate entities. The fluidity between what is considered living tissue and traditional machinery challenges established scientific categories. Over the years, new finds have continued to baffle researchers. Field teams in 3303 uncovered traces of a greenish, viscous substance coating interior bulkheads aboard a derelict Thargoid craft. Molecular analysis showed a complex protein structure capable of rapid chemical reactions when exposed to specific wavelengths of radiation. Some theorize that this unique substance may serve a dual purpose, acting as both a protective sealant and a conduit for energy signals vital to the vessel's operation. Most attempts at duplicating or modifying these proteins have met with failure, leaving the true extent of their capabilities a matter of ongoing speculation. Throughout these discoveries, there is no definitive record of a live specimen having been observed or captured under controlled conditions. Many accounts exist of brief sightings during combat or in the wake of crashed vessels, yet most verifiable evidence remains limited to remains that degrade quickly once separated from their environment. The unusual degradation process, first documented in 3160, poses a major obstacle to sustained study. As soon as samples are removed from their original context, they begin to break down at a rate that confounds standard preservation methods. Some research teams have reported success in slowing this process, though none have managed to halt it completely. This patchwork of evidence presents an evolving puzzle. The Thargoids appear to thrive where most human-engineered systems falter, suggesting a biology that has evolved with their technologies for millennia. Despite centuries of research, major gaps persist in understanding how they communicate, reproduce, and adapt. Every artifact and sample raises new questions about the boundaries of life, and each discovery hints at a deeper complexity waiting to be uncovered. All that is certain is that these beings have honed an unmatched symbiosis of organism and mechanism, placing them well beyond the limits of current human science. Ship design and capabilities. Thargoid vessels have stood apart from human constructions since the earliest verified encounters in 3125. Witnesses reported ships shaped in a radial, petal-like formation, capable of swift and abrupt maneuvers that defied conventional understanding of propulsion. Such accounts raised immediate concerns among observers, as no known technological framework at the time could replicate or explain these flight patterns. By 3150, researchers studying scattered wreckage fragments concluded that Thargoid ships incorporate organic components into their hulls, blurring the boundary between biology and machine. Over the centuries, new observations reinforced the notion that each Thargoid craft possesses regenerative qualities far beyond standard self-repair systems. In 3301, an engineering team analyzing a salvaged hull section documented a fibrous layer beneath the outer plating. This fibrous material seemed to adapt in response to damage, forming a seal that hardened into a functional replacement for the lost segments. These discoveries fueled speculation that the Thargoids had cultivated a seamless synergy between living tissue and durable alloys, resulting in ships that can rapidly recover in ways human vessels cannot. Their offensive capabilities have proven equally formidable. Squadrons engaged in conflict with Thargoid interceptors in 3302 noted an array of unconventional weaponry, including the ability to disrupt human vessels' power systems at range. Stories of these shutdown attacks, first recorded in official battle logs, describe entire wings of ships left drifting helplessly, forced to watch as the Thargoid craft made surgical strikes. Pilots who survived these encounters spoke of an eerie calm before the onslaught, as if the Thargoids were methodically scanning or assessing targets prior to engagement. Further complicating any effort to repel these incursions is the presence of smaller autonomous drones that some have come to call the Thargon swarm. In 3303, tactical reports detailed how these swarms could quickly overwhelm shield systems through sheer volume of concentrated fire, effectively diverting attention while the main interceptors closed in. Despite repeated attempts to replicate or reverse engineer the guiding signals controlling these drones, human forces still struggle to match the cohesion displayed by Thargoid formations. The propulsion systems of these ships also remain a subject of intense study. Engineers who have inspected fragments of drive mechanisms found hints of exotic particles that operate beyond the typical constraints of standard thruster technology. Some speculate that the Thargoids harness certain quantum effects that allow them to pivot, accelerate, and decelerate in ways no human-made ship can easily counter. Though numerous research initiatives have attempted to harness similar principles, none have come close to replicating the silent efficiency exhibited by the Thargoid craft. Even the interior configurations, when accessible after a crash or abandonment, defy straightforward explanation. Unlike human craft that feature clear compartments and navigational controls, Thargoid vessels often exhibit labyrinthine corridors without obvious instrumentation. It remains unknown how their crews interface with these ships. The best working theory, dating to studies conducted in 3302, holds that the vessels respond to biosignals or pheromonic exchanges, possibly tied to the unusual organic matrix woven through their hulls. All of these features underscore the stark technological divide between the Thargoids and humanity. Their ships, unlike anything else encountered, continue to confound and captivate those who seek to understand them. From their regenerative exteriors and swarm tactics to their unparalleled propulsion methods, every aspect of Thargoid vessel design speaks to a convergence of biology and engineering that places them far beyond the limits of current human science. As more battles are fought and new pieces of wreckage are examined, the hope remains that these elusive secrets can one day be unraveled. Unknown artifacts and probes first came to public attention when scattered reports surfaced in 3301 describing strange, self-contained devices that defied all conventional classification. These items dubbed unknown artifacts, began appearing aboard cargo vessels and in black market trade networks, often under circumstances that fueled rumors of deliberate placement. Researchers who managed to procure samples quickly discovered that these objects emitted a peculiar drone-like sound, punctuated by pulses of energy that interfered with shipboard systems. Early attempts to stabilize them in controlled environments met with failure, as the artifacts appeared to degrade surrounding infrastructure over time, leading to structural damage and unexplained mechanical malfunctions. Curiosity about these artifacts soared in 3302 when individuals examining the encoded signals emanating from their surfaces detected patterns believed to reference specific planetary systems. Analysts posited that the artifacts might be serving as a navigational tool or, more ominously, a beacon relaying information to unknown recipients. Around the same time, a related device emerged on the market, labeled an unknown probe. Reports indicated it was capable of scanning its surroundings at astonishing range, sending out energy bursts capable of temporarily neutralizing certain electronic subsystems. Many suspected these probes were built for reconnaissance, quietly mapping the locations and vulnerabilities of human installations. In the wake of these discoveries, a few salvage teams dedicated themselves to gathering as many artifacts and probes as possible, hoping to unlock their secrets. Their endeavors were often fraught with peril. Some vessels carrying large quantities of these unknown devices experienced catastrophic failures of life support and flight control. By the close of 3302, station personnel in several frontier systems recorded unexplained fluctuations in their environmental controls, sometimes forcing evacuations when entire sectors became uninhabitable. Though official directives warned traders against transporting these unstable items, their rarity and potential research value continued to attract smugglers seeking lucrative rewards. The year 3303 brought a surge of investigations aimed at linking the artifacts and probes to known Thargoid activities. Analysis of the materials suggested a common design philosophy shared with organic constructs found at crash sites. A comprehensive survey of recovered technology revealed a consistent composition of unknown alloys, interwoven with organic filaments that seemed to pulsate like living tissue. Some experts propose that these artifacts serve multiple functions, gathering data, testing responses, and perhaps even preparing the way for future incursions. Still, any definitive explanation remained elusive. Observations taken during that period also hinted at a possible network effect, wherein a cluster of artifacts placed near each other appeared to synchronize their energy emissions, leading to exponentially greater disruption. It was during these incidents that entire sectors of a starport's docking bays could be disabled for hours, stranding multiple ships and leaving security teams powerless to contain the spread of damage. Despite the repeated cautionary tales, More artifacts and probes continued to circulate on the black market, driving both fear and fervent scientific pursuit. Today, the enigma of these unknown artifacts and probes continues to captivate and alarm in equal measure. They represent a tangible link to an alien intelligence that, until relatively recently, remained relegated to rumor. Their appearance in crucial trade routes and strategic outposts underscores the reach and foresight of those who placed them there. Every new device recovered spawns yet more questions. Are they purely observational tools or part of a broader strategy aimed at destabilizing human infrastructure? Is there a deeper significance to the signals some researchers claim to have decoded, or are these artifacts simply misinterpreted fragments of a larger, inscrutable design? For now, definitive answers remain as elusive as the Thargoids themselves, and the countless hours of research devoted to unraveling their secrets have, if anything, only served to deepen the mystery. Initial conflicts and the First Thargoid War. The earliest recorded engagements with the Thargoids date back to 3125, when a series of skirmishes in remote frontier systems first drew wide attention to their presence. Pilots venturing beyond well-charted trade routes spoke of being ambushed by ships whose tactics and weaponry were unmatched at the time. During this period, isolated outposts reported devastating losses, often without having the chance to send distress calls before communications fell silent. These encounters forced military and political leaders who had previously dismissed rumors of alien vessels to acknowledge that a new threat had indeed emerged. By 3130, the scale of these clashes expanded. A concerted effort to push back the incursions began, though initial attempts met with limited success. Commanders found themselves outmaneuvered by ships capable of precise, coordinated actions far beyond existing combat doctrines. In several engagements, a single Thargoid interceptor would disable an entire wing of human vessels by remotely shutting down their power systems. Faced with a foe so adept at neutralizing defenses, authorities scrambled to develop specialized weaponry and more resilient ship technology. These innovations, though often crude and hastily tested, became the frontline response to what was increasingly described as a full-scale war. In 3151, covert research programs gained momentum. One of the most notorious developments involved an engineered biological agent designed to exploit vulnerabilities in the Thargoids' organic-based technology. It remained controversial, with many fearing it would provoke greater reprisals or ignite moral debates over the ethics of biological warfare. Still, the strains of constant conflict compelled decision-makers to seize any advantage. Deployments of this agent reportedly weakened Thargoid hulls during several decisive battles, contributing to a period of relative calm that lasted just long enough for battered forces to regroup. Despite these breakthroughs, the era of open hostilities continued into the mid-3200s. Entire colonies were fortified with orbital defense platforms, and alliances between long-feuding powers emerged in the interest of collective survival. By 3250, many historians argue that this phase of the war had ended, largely because the Thargoids appeared to withdraw, their presence in contested regions waning. Commanders on the front lines described the abrupt cessation of conflict as an uneasy relief. No formal accords were reached, and there was no official surrender on either side. Instead, the Thargoids receded into the uncharted reaches of space, leaving behind damaged worlds and unanswered questions. The events of this war reshaped strategic doctrines and geopolitical structures. Infrastructure once devoted to rivalry between human factions was diverted into shared research, mutual defense, and the establishment of early warning systems for renewed incursions. Although many viewed this cooperation as a major victory, a lingering apprehension remained. Veterans of the conflict warned that the Thargoids had not so much been defeated as deterred, and that their next appearance would likely come without warning. Centuries later, the scars of the First Thargoid War continue to influence every decision made in matters of defense, from how warships are built to how remote colonies are secured. The memory of that war serves as both caution and omen, reminding all that an advanced alien power, once provoked, may return with greater resolve than before. Ongoing war efforts. In recent decades, the resurgence of Thargoid activity has escalated far beyond sporadic skirmishes, drawing every major power into a state of perpetual readiness. Around 3302, unexplained disappearances along key shipping routes alarmed officials who initially suspected piracy. Once credible sightings of Thargoid vessels resurfaced, it became clear that alien incursions had resumed with renewed vigor. This period witnessed a concerted push by officials and private sector innovators to fast-track programs aimed at defending settlements and trade corridors. Joint initiatives took form in 3303, as long-standing rivalries were set aside in favor of a unified response. Scientists, engineers, and military strategists collaborated to develop specialized weapons and hull upgrades better suited for confronting an enemy adept at degrading human technology. Some of the most notable breakthroughs included reinforced bulkheads that could endure the corrosive effects of alien weaponry and experimental energy-based countermeasures designed to disrupt the Thargoids' capacity to disable human vessels. These efforts helped mitigate the damage inflicted on remote outposts, though even the best-prepared fleets struggled to match the Thargoids' adaptability. The years 3304 and 3305 brought a more organized push against Thargoid footholds, particularly in the Pleiades and surrounding sectors. Strategic deployments of capital ships in newly fortified starports offered temporary cover for research teams and humanitarian convoys. Reported successes were often short-lived, as alien forces would retreat only to reappear in neighboring systems. Commanders and analysts began to see patterns suggesting the Thargoids were testing responses and adjusting their tactics accordingly. This reinforced the need for continuous intelligence gathering, prompting the creation of specialized reconnaissance units trained to monitor possible incursions and recover any wreckage left behind. By 3306, the cumulative toll on civilian and commercial infrastructure had grown substantial. The practice of establishing advanced warning beacons near vulnerable systems became widespread, aiming to grant settlers and independent pilots more time to evacuate or prepare defenses. Despite these measures, starports on the fringe of colonized space remained particularly exposed, and the list of repair and recovery projects swelled at an alarming rate. It was during this time that coordinated rescue efforts gained momentum, with volunteer crews stepping in to evacuate stations under siege and deliver critical supplies to cut-off populations. The alliances formed in this ongoing conflict continue to evolve, as each encounter with the Thargoids underscores the necessity of unity against a common foe. The discovery of new technologies, including artifacts believed to be connected to an ancient civilization, has broadened the range of strategic options available. Integration of these findings into research and development pipelines has led to further enhancements in energy weapons, hull integrity systems, and advanced scanning tools. Nevertheless, every new success serves as a reminder that the Thargoids are neither idle nor easily dissuaded. Reports as recent as 3307 suggest an expansion in their area of operations, pointing to a widening front in the long struggle that shows no sign of ending. Despite the uncertainties, the commitment to safeguarding human expansion remains unshaken. Initiatives dedicated to search and rescue efforts, intelligence gathering, and improved coordination among superpowers persist in hopes of halting or at least containing the Thargoid threat. As the conflict endures, observers note how it has reshaped entire industries, accelerated technological leaps, and forged alliances that might have seemed unthinkable in earlier decades. Even so, the ultimate objective, reaching a point of stable peace or conclusive victory, remains as elusive now as it was at the dawn of the renewed hostilities. Aegis and anti-Xeno initiatives. In 3303, amid escalating incursions, representatives from the Federation, Empire, and Alliance agreed on the need for a dedicated organization to unify research and defensive measures against the Thargoid threat. That collaboration led to the formation of Aegis, an entity designed to pool military resources, scientific expertise, and strategic oversight in the fight to safeguard inhabited systems. Researchers under its umbrella rapidly advanced the development of prototype anti-Xeno weapons, building on data collected from previous encounters and salvaged Thargoid technology. Although some criticized the rapid militarization, arguing it risked further antagonizing the Thargoids, few questioned the urgent need for a cohesive response to repeated attacks on trade routes and starports. By early 3304, Aegis had established multiple research bases specializing in the study of alien artifacts and the potential use of Guardian relics to bolster human defenses. Technicians deciphered partial schematics and refined energy-based countermeasures intended to disrupt the Thargoids' ability to disable human vessels. As these discoveries trickled into practical application, newly equipped fleets achieved modest successes. Still, the Thargoids adapted quickly, forcing Aegis to escalate its efforts. Field teams began more frequent forays into hazardous sectors, intent on gathering intelligence and reinforcing key outposts. In 3305, Aegis spearheaded large-scale rescue and evacuation operations for several starports under siege, coordinating with private security firms and civilian volunteers. It was during these campaigns that controversial new weapon platforms were deployed, some incorporating experimental modules derived from the cross-analysis of Guardian structures. Although initial reports suggested a higher success rate in fending off incursions, these technologies remained costly and required specialized training to operate effectively. Political figures who once supported Aegis with minimal oversight began demanding greater transparency, fueling debates about accountability and the potential for misuse of advanced weaponry. Over time, a network of affiliated groups and independent pilots formed around the principle of active defense, collectively referred to as anti-Xeno initiatives. These smaller factions embraced the shared goal of protecting vulnerable systems, often joining Aegis-sanctioned campaigns while preserving their own autonomy. Their combined efforts ensured that no single power could monopolize the effort or withhold resources critical to the broader fight. As Thargoid activity continued to flare across multiple fronts, the importance of shared research, reliable funding, and clear communication channels became all the more apparent. In 3306, many of these initiatives played pivotal roles in securing trade corridors through the Pleiades and other hotspots, illustrating how cooperation across multiple sectors of society could make a decisive difference. By 3307, Aegis had evolved beyond its original mandate, branching into humanitarian support, intelligence gathering, and deeper scientific exploration of potential non-combative avenues. Still, skepticism persisted among those who contended that humanity's aggressive stance might ultimately fuel a cycle of retaliation. Within Aegis itself, factions existed that favored diplomacy or exploration over militarized expansion, leading to internal disputes over the best course of action. Nevertheless, the central mission remained the same: to harness every available resource in a unified stand against a threat whose motives and ultimate objectives remained shrouded in mystery. Despite the disagreements and moral quandaries, Aegis and its allied anti-Xeno groups continued pushing the boundaries of science and strategy, convinced that unity was the only path to survival in the face of an adaptive and formidable adversary. Politics and power struggles. In 3302, as reports of renewed Thargoid incursions began to spread through inhabited space, an underlying tension surfaced among the major powers. The Federation, which prided itself on centralized control and expansive governance, wrestled with the prospect of committing additional military assets to confront an enemy that might only rarely cross its borders. Meanwhile, the Empire, driven by tradition and strict hierarchy, hesitated to concede any measure of sovereignty by participating in joint defense agreements. The Alliance, with its coalition of independent systems, sought a middle ground, urging unified action to ensure the safety of all settlements on the frontiers. Internal power struggles intensified in 3303 when resources earmarked for Aegis and other anti-Xeno programs began to flow. Federal administrators clashed with imperial officials over how best to allocate new weapon research, each side wary that sharing too many breakthroughs could diminish their strategic edge once the threat receded. Commercial interests also played a significant role, particularly as the trade in salvaged alien materials expanded. Corporations eager to capitalize on Thargoid technology lobbied politicians for favorable contracts, ensuring that the line between public defense and private profit became increasingly blurred. By 3304, tensions between the superpowers reached a point where calls for oversight grew loud. Prominent figures argued that the consolidation of cutting-edge technology within government-controlled research labs threatened the balance of power. Others contended that strict regulation was vital to prevent dangerous arms races or the misuse of potentially destabilizing discoveries. As debates raged in council chambers, smaller factions within each superpower saw opportunities to leverage the Thargoid crisis for personal gain. Some championed isolationist policies, aiming to divert funds to internal security and infrastructure, while others pushed for aggressive expansions to seize systems believed to hold valuable alien artifacts. Around 3305, fractures within the Alliance brought added complexity. Member systems that had long valued their autonomy questioned whether large-scale cooperation against the Thargoids risked subordinating local governance to an alliance-wide command structure. Those concerns were echoed on the periphery of Federation space, where governors resented being compelled to align with distant central authorities. The Empire, experiencing its own internal disputes, sought to maintain a veneer of unity even as power blocks formed around key senators with contrasting visions for how to engage the Thargoids. Some promoted open aggression, others advocated cautious diplomacy or the strategic defense of core worlds. In 3306, widespread unrest fueled further instability. Displaced populations from attacked starports took refuge in densely populated systems, placing unprecedented strains on supply chains and social services. Competing political figures promised swift resolutions if granted more power, often blaming rival superpowers or independent factions for slow responses to the crisis. Calls for leadership reshuffles became common, and in several systems, local elections erupted into violence, underscoring how the Thargoid menace had far-reaching repercussions beyond the battlefield. By 3307, a fragile web of treaties and pacts linked most of the major powers in the ongoing war effort, even as simmering rivalries threatened to unravel those alliances. Some smaller factions began to thrive by playing the powers against each other, monopolizing rare resources and positioning themselves as indispensable mercenaries. While the galaxy's leaders publicly insisted on unity, the underlying reality remained far more complicated. Trust was often conditional, alliances shifted, and each negotiation carried the unspoken understanding that every power still eyed the post-conflict landscape with an eye towards strengthening its own influence. In this climate, politics and power struggles proved as dynamic and perilous as the Thargoid engagements themselves, reshaping the interstellar order in ways few had foreseen even a decade earlier. The Guardian-Thargoid conflict. Evidence of an ancient struggle between the Guardians and the Thargoids first came to wider attention in 3302 when explorers unearthed a series of deserted structures scattered across distant worlds. Initial scans of these imposing ruins revealed cryptic inscriptions depicting what appeared to be large-scale warfare, with fragmented carvings suggesting the Guardians had once engaged in a prolonged battle with an alien force. That force was later identified as the Thargoids, as symbols consistent with known Thargoid motifs emerged in the same sites where Guardian technology and artistry abounded. Analysis of the sites implied that the conflict took place countless millennia ago, well before humans began charting interstellar space. Although it is difficult to pinpoint the precise timeline, dating techniques involving isotopic measurements hinted at a catastrophic event that may have unfolded over several generations, shaping the destiny of the Guardian civilization. Some researchers argue that the Thargoids launched an extensive campaign that forced the Guardians to rapidly develop new defensive measures, culminating in advanced energy weapons and planetary fortifications. Scorch marks found on the interior of Guardian fortresses hint that intense combat took place, while the near-total lack of organic remains fuels speculation that the final phases of the conflict were swift and absolute. When these ruins were subjected to thorough examination in 3303, certain artifacts appeared to mirror the energy signatures observed in Thargoid wreckage from contemporary encounters. Teams specializing in material science detected parallels in the resonance frequencies of power cores, suggesting that the Guardians might have adapted or replicated elements of Thargoid technology to defend themselves. A key point of interest remains the partial records etched into monolithic tablets, some of which reference a rapid escalation of hostilities. Researchers hypothesize that the Guardians, once a thriving and highly cultured civilization, found themselves in a war of attrition they could not sustain. Precisely how the Guardians fell remains a matter of debate, though many suspect that the destructive capacity of the Thargoids, combined with internal Guardian conflicts, accelerated their decline. In 3304, expeditions to newly discovered Guardian sites revealed hidden chambers containing relics believed to have direct military applications. Among them were power generators of unusual design, apparently intended to supply vast weapon systems or shield networks. Some structures contained data vaults locked behind intricate security protocols, though a handful of partial decryptions provided more context. References to an escalating threat from beyond their settled territory, desperate measures enacted to protect core worlds, and eventual admissions of defeat. While the exact cause of the Guardians' extinction remains uncertain, these accounts suggest that war with the Thargoids played a pivotal role in their downfall. This ancient conflict offers a stark reminder of the potential scale of Thargoid aggression. The Guardians, known for their architectural wonders and sophisticated technology, still succumb to a relentless, adaptable enemy. In 3305, engineers began integrating salvaged Guardian components into existing anti-Xeno platforms, hoping that these artifacts might tip the balance in the current struggle against Thargoid incursions. Although practical results are mixed, the newfound synergy of Guardian and human engineering holds promise for defending systems against threats that have endured for millennia. Yet, despite all these advances, the echoes of that long-ago war remain sobering, reflecting a history of conflict that continues to resonate in the present day. Guardian technology. When explorers first stumbled upon the silent relics of the Guardian civilization in 3302, they could not have imagined the depth of innovation buried within those ancient ruins. The structures dotted across barren worlds contained data imprints and intricate carvings that hinted at a society advanced in fields ranging from energy manipulation to artificial intelligence. In the following year, organized expeditions devoted themselves to salvaging whatever they could learn, prying open data vaults, and sifting through layers of dust and rubble in search of functional components. By 3303, research teams had succeeded in activating partial subsystems within these ruins. The discovery of unusual power nodes constructed from exotic alloys suggested that the Guardians had perfected a means of harnessing energy far more efficiently than any known human design. Remnants of these nodes remained stable for astonishing lengths of time, prompting scientists to believe that the Guardians had mastered long-duration power storage without the thermal complications that plague modern reactors. Such resilience proved especially relevant for military applications, and engineers began drafting prototypes that integrated Guardian-inspired circuits into human ship systems. It was in 3304 that breakthroughs came to light, particularly in the realm of directed energy weaponry. Fragments of Guardian weapon platforms revealed sophisticated cooling mechanisms and plasma containment fields, leading to the first generation of armaments able to channel intense blasts of energy without succumbing to overheating. While initial tests proved dangerous, with one research station suffering structural damage from an accidental overload, the potential was too enticing to abandon. Over time, these discoveries were refined, resulting in practical field-deployable weapons known for their remarkable efficiency against heavily shielded targets. Alongside weapon development, other Guardian-derived technologies emerged. Some expedition teams uncovered strange devices appearing to serve as navigational aids or data transfer modules. Analysts found that these modules used compressed information encoding techniques, effectively storing massive quantities of star system data in a form resistant to degradation. This had immediate repercussions for exploration, allowing long-range ships to integrate advanced mapping functions and data analytics far beyond existing human capabilities. The relationship between these data modules and Guardian architecture remains an ongoing research priority, as unlocking the full breadth of their coding methods may reveal more about the vanished civilization's communications network. Efforts to incorporate Guardian technology did not proceed without complications. Certain artifacts displayed incompatibilities when interfaced with standard shipboard processors, often leading to sudden power spikes or software crashes. Specialists who studied the underlying code hypothesized that the Guardians might have developed a fundamentally different approach to system architecture. This challenge spurred a new wave of adaptive design, pushing engineers and programmers to create hybrid frameworks capable of interpreting Guardian signals safely. By 3305, advanced labs had begun blending these discoveries into anti-Xeno strategies, particularly in the ongoing confrontations against the Thargoids. Tests indicated that Guardian-inspired armaments were more resistant to the corrosive properties of alien weapons, enabling longer engagement times and improved survivability. This synergy between ancient and modern technology became a major talking point in strategic circles, suggesting that the Guardians' legacy might play a crucial role in humanity's future survival. Though the exact fate of the Guardian civilization remains a mystery, their technological achievements continue to guide new initiatives, offering both hope and cautionary lessons in what is possible when knowledge and ingenuity push beyond their limits. Speculation and theorizing. For generations, the question of what truly drives the Thargoids has drawn a wealth of speculation, from serious academic proposals to the wildest of conspiracy theories. In the early years following renewed sightings around 3302, many analysts focused on the possibility that these incursions represented an organized campaign of expansion. They highlighted patterns of system-wide attacks, noting the methodical targeting of outposts and starports that appeared critical to trade or strategic defense. Others, examining recorded data of Thargoid behavior, suggested that humanity might be trespassing on territory the Thargoids considered sacred, prompting retaliatory strikes meant to push intruders away. As more evidence of Guardian ruins emerged in 3303, another perspective took shape. Perhaps the Thargoids' aggression was a learned behavior stemming from their ancient conflict with the Guardians. By studying the extensive records of damage found at Guardian strongholds, some researchers proposed that the Thargoids might interpret any advanced technology as a potential threat, explaining their vigilant monitoring of human expansion. This idea gained traction among those who had observed Thargoid vessels scanning human ships or lingering around Guardian sites. The suggestion was that the Thargoids, ever cautious, were on alert for signs of a challenge similar to what they had once faced millennia ago. In 3304, a fringe group of theorists argued that the Thargoids were attempting to establish a framework for coexistence, and that the repeated attacks on human fleets were warnings or defensive responses rather than outright invasions. They cited instances in which Thargoid craft refrained from firing on unarmed vessels, but their opponents countered that such restraint might simply be strategic, allowing the Thargoids to gather intelligence rather than waste resources. Tensions within academic and political circles grew as some championed diplomatic outreach, while others insisted on meeting power with power. The resulting debate shaped policies on how best to respond when Thargoid ships appeared without issuing any open signal of intent. Around 3305, individuals studying the interplay between Thargoid artifacts and Guardian sites offered a more unsettling theory. They noted that the Thargoids, having once confronted the Guardians, would likely maintain an enduring interest in any technology that shared characteristics with their ancient adversary. The concern arose that combining Guardian and human innovations might inadvertently provoke a stronger Thargoid retaliation. For every pilot eager to adopt Guardian-derived weapons, there were scientists warning that integrating these systems could confirm to the Thargoids that humanity now possessed the means to wage a more dangerous conflict. A separate line of thought delved into the possible existence of multiple Thargoid factions. Reports from various encounters sometimes described Thargoid craft displaying divergent tactics or energy signatures, fueling the idea that not all Thargoid activity emanates from a single unified command structure. Investigators in 3306 tried to map patterns of raids and unusual hyperdictions, hoping to identify distinct behavioral clusters that might hint at multiple interest groups or subspecies within the Thargoid civilization. Though the theory remains inconclusive, it introduces the possibility that humans are dealing with a more complex alien society than initially imagined. Despite the range of views, one constant emerges: no definitive understanding of Thargoid intentions has been achieved. Each new discovery leads to additional questions, reinforcing the belief that the complexity of the Thargoids surpasses any simplistic narrative of invasion or defense. In the absence of conclusive evidence, speculation remains the driving force behind every new hypothesis, and the galaxy can only wait to see which line of thought, if any, will prove closest to the truth. Encounter mechanics. In the early months of 3302, scattered reports emerged of vessels being forcibly torn from faster-than-light travel without any visible cause. These events, eventually labeled hyperdictions, caught flight control authorities off guard. Pilots described seeing a sudden swirl of luminescent distortions enveloping their ships, followed by total system malfunctions. Moments later, they found themselves face-to-face with Thargoid craft looming in the darkness. In some instances, the aliens appeared to simply observe the immobilized vessels, scanning them with bright, pulsating lights before vanishing into the void. In others, the encounter escalated into aggression, with Thargoid weaponry focusing on those who attempted to flee or respond with force. Along major trade routes by 3303, entire convoys reported synchronized hyperdictions, suggesting that Thargoid sensors possess the capability to pinpoint multiple ships traveling in close proximity. Veterans of these incidents recounted how key ship functions, such as life support and thrusters, would dim or fail altogether, replaced by a suffocating silence. Recovery times varied, but many insisted that some invisible effect lingered, interfering with navigation and communications even after the Thargoids departed. Investigators studying black box recordings noted strong electromagnetic fluctuations coinciding with these interdictions, leading to the theory that Thargoid vessels might employ advanced fields to control the very fabric of faster-than-light travel. By 3304, encounters extended beyond hyperdictions. Overrun starports received reports of Thargoid craft engaging in what seemed like deliberate scans of docking bays and station interiors, as though collecting information on human infrastructure. During these episodes, local defense wings scrambled to intercept, but often found themselves overwhelmed. In one documented case, several interceptor-class Thargoid ships stationed themselves near a starport ring, patiently scanning arriving traffic before retaliating against any pilot who attempted to fire on them. This pattern led some analysts to believe that Thargoids routinely assess threat levels before deciding whether to respond with force. Another recurring mechanic involves the deployment of smaller drone-like constructs swarming around larger Thargoid vessels. First observed in large numbers in 3305, these drones exhibit coordinated movement patterns that test the reflexes and shield capacities of human defenders. Recorded data shows how the drones form protective screens, creating brief openings for the main Thargoid vessel to unleash targeted assaults. Few have managed to retrieve intact drone fragments, and those that were recovered dissolved in a corrosive reaction soon after exposure to controlled atmospheres. This has led to speculation that the drones rely on a form of biological synergy with their parent craft, an intricate system that defies typical engineering categorization. All of these occurrences reflect a broader theme. The Thargoids do not simply appear and engage. Rather, they manipulate the conditions of the encounter, choosing the time and place in ways that catch defenders off guard. Hyperdictions demonstrate control over faster-than-light travel corridors. Swarm tactics underscore collective coordination well beyond standard automated systems. Even the aftermath of these clashes poses challenges as shutdown fields and residual effects linger, leaving pilots vulnerable for precious moments. Though research continues, each new report only strengthens the view that the Thargoids maintain a profound understanding of the very principles that govern space travel, and they use that knowledge to orchestrate interactions entirely on their own terms. Combat tactics. In the early phases of renewed Thargoid aggression around 3302, pilots quickly discovered that conventional missile and laser systems had limited effect on alien hulls. Standard kinetic rounds often dissipated against a dense biomechanical exterior, prompting immediate calls for specialized weapon development. Military engineers introduced prototype armor-piercing shells in 3303 that integrated exotic alloys, offering a modest improvement in penetrating power. However, these prototypes still fell short of matching the regenerative properties displayed by Thargoid vessels during prolonged engagements. The introduction of targeted energy-based weaponry around 3304 marked a significant milestone. Drawing from Guardian-inspired research, these weapons combined focused beams with unique energy signatures capable of disrupting the stability of Thargoid hull membranes. Though the technology remained expensive and required specialized power management, it brought the first substantial success in diminishing the enemy's resilience. Pilots reported that sustained barrages from coordinated squadrons could force a Thargoid ship to break off its assault, providing a window for strategic repositioning or retreat. The challenge lay in maintaining formation under the bombardment of drones and the debilitating effects of shutdown fields, which rendered many ships adrift if they lacked proper countermeasures. Defensive tactics evolved alongside offensive developments. Throughout 3305, major fleets adopted reinforced hull materials and shield generators specifically adapted to resist corrosive attacks. Commanders advised distributing multiple anti-shutdown field generators within a squadron, ensuring that not all vessels would be incapacitated at once. This technique, often referred to in military briefings as redundant coverage, enabled a more cohesive response to Thargoid aggression. Wing leaders stressed the importance of splitting targets and forcing Thargoid vessels to engage multiple directions simultaneously, thereby reducing the impact of their coordinated drone swarms. In addition to these direct combat approaches, hit-and-run maneuvers gained prominence. Fleet tactics manuals highlighted the Thargoids' ability to adapt rapidly during a fight, using sophisticated sensory systems to pinpoint weaknesses. By leveraging short, concentrated bursts of firepower and then disengaging, skilled pilots found they could wear down a Thargoid's defenses over repeated passes. Resupply ships operated on the periphery, carrying specialized repair drones and munitions to keep attackers operational. These support craft often faced risks of their own, requiring agile pilots capable of quick evasion if a Thargoid interceptor singled them out for destruction. One of the more contentious strategies involved the use of Guardian hybrid weapons, deployed in greater numbers starting in 3306. Critics warned that melding ancient technology with modern systems could provoke further alien retaliation. Nevertheless, the results were undeniable. Squadrons equipped with these weapons often encountered higher survival rates, inflicting visible damage against larger Thargoid interceptors that had previously shrugged off conventional attacks. As more data emerged, combat leaders refined their doctrines, emphasizing the value of multi-pronged assaults and disciplined retreat protocols in the face of overwhelming force. Despite these advancements, there remains no foolproof method for guaranteeing victory. Every year brings new accounts of unpredictable Thargoid tactics or unusual weapon signatures, underscoring the relentless nature of the threat. Pilots are advised to stay current with the latest research and adapt their loadouts to address the ever-evolving challenges presented by these alien adversaries. The key lesson shared across all frontline reports is that readiness and flexibility count as much as raw firepower, for the Thargoids have proven time and again that they cannot be easily outmaneuvered by rigid or outdated thinking. Non-combat approaches. Since Thargoid vessels began appearing in greater numbers around 3302, a handful of scientists and explorers have attempted peaceful contact in hopes of avoiding further bloodshed. Early records from that year mention small research vessels venturing into areas known to harbor Thargoid activity, refraining from any show of force. In a few notable cases, Thargoid ships simply scanned these craft at close range and departed, suggesting curiosity or perhaps simple caution. Encouraged by such ambiguous encounters, various civilian groups devoted resources to studying the chemical signatures left behind by Thargoid probes, speculating that a path to communication might lie in deciphering those unique patterns. In 3303, a faction of xenobiologists focused on analyzing barnacle-like structures that appear to produce meta-alloys essential to Thargoid technology. Their work revealed that careful harvesting of these materials without causing extensive harm to the underlying biological network did not always provoke a hostile response. This fueled theories that a measured approach to resource extraction might coexist with Thargoid interests. However, incidents of overharvesting persisted, leading to conflicting reports about whether Thargoids react aggressively to perceived threats against their key resources or simply conduct routine patrols in certain regions. In 3304, a coalition of independent researchers and linguists proposed sending unarmed ships equipped with high-resolution scanners and specialized signal generators. Their objective was to transmit a carefully crafted series of pulses, each matching frequencies observed in Thargoid emissions. Though initial results proved inconclusive, they noted subtle changes in Thargoid ship formations, raising questions about whether the signals prompted any form of recognition. Skeptics claimed these were random coincidences, while proponents argued it represented a cautious step toward establishing a shared channel of communication. Alongside these efforts, covert stealth missions emerged as another non-combat option, particularly for those aiming to observe Thargoid behavior without intervening. By 3305, certain reconnaissance vessels were fitted with low-heat signatures and advanced sensor packages designed to track Thargoid movements in real time. During one such mission, pilot accounts described watching multiple Thargoid interceptors inspect a drifting megaship wreck. The observers maintained a safe distance, recording their every maneuver, but the Thargoids exhibited no hostility. Advocates of these stealth deployments point to these close encounters as proof that Thargoids do not always attack on sight, even in vulnerable locations. Philosophical and ethical debates intensified in 3306 as increasing numbers of refugees fled systems under Thargoid pressure. Some believed that the best chance for peaceful resolution lay in continued research and restraint, while others argued that attempting non-combat approaches placed countless lives in jeopardy. Nevertheless, private institutions and humanitarian foundations continued to sponsor missions aimed at understanding Thargoid biology and language, driven by the hope that common ground could be discovered. These groups often faced criticism from the more militant factions, who viewed any pause in armed response as a strategic error. Opinions remain sharply divided. Reports of Thargoid raids and station damage persist, yet there is also compelling evidence that certain Thargoid actions may not be outright aggressions, but rather responses to perceived encroachment or resource conflicts. As a result, non-combat methods, ranging from stealth surveys to carefully orchestrated contact attempts, have retained a dedicated following. Their advocates argue that true cooperation, if ever achieved, will depend on bridging the chasm of fear and misunderstanding, rather than deepening it through continued warfare. Until such an outcome is realized or proven impossible, the drive to explore peaceful alternatives endures.